This super silicon fragmented podcast is atrocious.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments Silicon. Our first post Thanksgiving post show, or sorry, our first post Thanksgiving show.
There we
Proper,
go.
yeah.
Words are
Other than
hard.
The
yeah,
post Thanksgiving post show will be afterwards.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, though, as is our usual custom, we have already done our weekly reviews. So if you missed that, they are in our archives. Um, but moving forward, right, let's get to the news. How was everyone's holidays? Let's start with you, Petty.
It existed.
I mean, that's not what you told us on Sunday, but
Yeah.
It didn't exist?
Now, most of break we were off, my mom was in the ER because she apparently has like 3 pretty bad ulcers from the NSAID she was taking for her shoulder injury. So they have run new medicines for that. Yesterday, she got a MRI on her hand to see what's up with that, because they think she might have torn a muscle in that too. So they need to see if it's something that can, either be dealt with physical therapy, another surgery, or if she's gonna have to be retired out of her job because they can't do anything about it.
concerning.
Yeah. Well, luckily, because this is workman's comp, the settlement she will get will probably be significant, and she also has retirement. So,
Hmm. Okay, that dulls the blow.
yeah.
So outside of that, like,
um. Overall, not a whole lot. Just been kind of playing Genshin Impact a lot, and wow, Mega Man Zero was harder than I remember it.
It's not that hard to complete, but it's hard to do a good job with.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Though I have been playing more these Mega Man ZX,
right.
so that's been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And still doing the Final Fantasy 14 stuff. Next week, next Tuesday, December 8th, we finally get the 5.4 update that we've been waiting for like it got delayed like a month or two because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So that's yay new content. So yeah, I'm probably gonna be streaming the story of that if I have the chance, depending on if we're doing anything.
Like, um, nothing out of the ordinary.
Not that I know of yet. If I need to, help mom with like errands and stuff, because only one good working arm.
Of course.
But yeah,
Now, good luck with that.
yeah.
Right.
So I guess next person.
All right. Galix.
Um, Thanksgiving was pretty low key, aside from concern over the fact that someone in my office was apparently exposed to COVID, but I found out on Friday that they were negative, so uh, don't have anything to worry about. And my sister's feeling better.
That's good.
She doesn't live with us; she lives in Rhode Island, but she tested positive a couple weeks ago. So,
Uh, she didn't. Was it? Was it mild?
uh, it was normal, rough cold, but not like she didn't need to be hospitalized or anything. So,
That's good.
So yeah, things have mostly been going pretty well. I'm now left because of the pandemic. Between events getting canceled and me wanting to make sure there was time in case I did get sick, I have more ETO left between now and the end of the year than I can actually use, even including the amount that I can carry over. So I'm trying to I'm taking off the rest of this week and then probably a day or two next week, and so that'll be interesting. But otherwise, not a whole lot going on. I've been a couple of my a couple of my online friends have picked up Pokemon Sword and Shield, or Shield rather, as an early Christmas thing for themselves or whatever. So I've been playing that with them some, and I've started Age of Calamity, but I haven't gotten super far because mostly I've been playing Pokemon with my friends. Oh, and I have still been playing Pokemon Go. I think I mentioned last week or last time that I started that because of the Meltan thing. But
One of us.
so
One of us.
I've been getting in a few decent length walks, probably a little shorter than they would be otherwise, but it's more walking than I would do otherwise. So although some of it is because of the place I live, more convenient to access by car and then drive around in a small area or just park, because rural areas are not kind to the mechanic that they use to decide where Pokemon spawn and where gyms and stops are.
Yeah, it usually goes by population density from what I've seen. So good luck with that in Maine.
Well, I have a really long driveway, even so. Like my house is very much not even on the map. So I get nothing when I'm sitting at home unless I drop an incense, or use the Meltan box. But there's a condo complex nearby that I can get some things at. There are a couple places near work and friends' houses and stuff. And like, it's not like I have to drive far to get to places with more, or walk. There are 5 or 6 places within a fairly easy walk. It's just this isn't the best weather for walking, and it's hard to make me set aside time for that. So,
Right.
that's about all.
All right. Well, you're up, Twilight.
All right. Well, yeah, my Thanksgiving was not eventful either. Nothing special happened. Just got together with my parents, and then as a safety precaution, as a safety precaution, I wore I wore a mask while I was visiting, and during the dinner, I would anytime I would speak, I would cover my mouth with a paper towel, just to be safe. But yeah, yeah, otherwise, yeah, the Thanksgiving week rush at work was obviously busy, and thankfully, the day after Thanksgiving, yeah, things calmed down for now. That we're expecting all that to ramp back up as we get closer to Christmas. Yeah, they've been implementing um, stronger safety precautions work again. Like they shut down the sitting areas in the cafeteria once more, and been pushing the mask mandate a little harder, and yeah, uh, yeah, that's about it for work. Yeah, that's been otherwise just decorating for Christmas here. Got my tree up and such, and it's freezing cold. No surprise. It's Kentucky, and Kentucky weather likes to be random. Well, consistent at least at times, but can be pretty random. Anyway, I'm rambling. So yeah, gaming wise, I've been just trying to finish up um, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Haven't quite done it yet. I'm just being busy with other stuff, and yeah, that's about it for me.
All right. It's my go. Well, let's see. My Thanksgiving was a mixed bag. On, I suppose, the positive side, actually got to do Thanksgiving dinner this year after several years of not doing that, mainly because most other family is far away or were far away until a few months ago. You know, basically what I'm saying is I spent Thanksgiving with my brother who recently moved back into sort of the area. By sort of, I mean about 2.5 hours away. So, bit of a drive, like, but not that I was doing the driving, mainly because, well, I was dealing with an infected finger over the holiday. Like,
Fine.
yeah, if by constant swelling, discoloration, um, abscesses, and all that stuff is fun, trust me, it's not. I'll spare you the details because they're not pleasant. But fingers mostly back to normal. Like right now, it's still a bit sensitive because of some skin loss.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I told you it was not a pleasant experience. Like, you know, but it's mostly done. Thanks, thankfully. Like I can move my hand and I can type again, which is a big reason why I mainly took a break from like social media and stuff. You know, and yeah, that's about it for my news. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Maureen Berho of Niebla Games. I hope I pronounced all that correctly.
Yes, it's correct. Maureen Berho of Niebla Games. It's some strange names, I think. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of the show.
No problem, no problem. Right, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the person behind the studio games and whatnot. Um, and we do that by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, I'm a sociologist in terms of my career, like formal career, what I studied as a degree. So it's not very related to video games. So I co-founded Niebla Games with the creative director and game designer. I'm currently the producer of the team. When we were studying in the university, we are based in Chile, by the way, so it's a small country in terms of the video game sector. Um, so for us, it's been an adventure to found a video game development company. It's all been about learning. Um, but what drove us to make this project was our passion for games. We love games, both video games and tabletop games. So we started prototyping tabletop games. Causa was, in fact, the first game that we started developing. And then we thought about making a video game about it. And then we founded the company and more projects and stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, um, now, how many games did you prototype or develop before you got to, well, the one we're going to be talking about here today?
Um, it's our first game. Like when we were studying in the university, we thought maybe we could do a collectible card game as a hobby. Because we really liked Magic the Gathering and other games. Um, and we did like a printed prototype and played with friends. And then we started showcasing it in hobby events. And we didn't have any experience making video games or tabletop games, but we thought, hey, maybe we can make a team. So we started looking for programmers and artists, and then looking for funding and starting developing the video game. In the meantime, as Causa is a very long and ambitious project, we did some side projects like side quests. So here in Chile, we have launched a couple of tabletop games that are also related to the fantasy world of Causa. But Causa is the first project ever that we did.
Okay. And there's a lot of questions related to, the creation of Causa that we could start. But I suppose my first question is, did you generate the rule set for Causa to be originally an actual collectible card game and adapt to that to video games, or did you just go straight to this is a video game card game?
We started as a physical game. We wanted and then started thinking about a digital version. And when we started working in both versions, we really wanted to make sure that the game could still be played as a tabletop, like physical game. So there's there's no randomness at all, I think. I'm not sure if we added something later, but
I saw a high tier card on a high tier commander choice on one of the new commanders that says draw or I think it's invoke a random character from your deck or something. But yeah, generally.
Okay. That mechanic is probably one of a very late addition, because in the early days of Causa, like the DNA of the project is very related to the tabletop experience.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I was curious about that, in terms of whether you intended it to be realizable or not, was that there are a lot of things in this game that basically make cards pop into existence either on the table or in your hand. So would those be just like you're expected to have a bunch of extras of those stable cards on hand, or?
When we had the tabletop game, I remember that we used like papers, not specific cards. But that was part of the prototype spirit of the project.
Yeah, it's just, well, the thing that I noticed is that a lot of card games use tokens, but tokens are usually very mechanically simple, whereas a lot of these are cards that you could also have in your deck.
Yes.
Like the commander choice abilities put actual cards into play, and some of the cards that are nobles literally call on another card that is like a servant of the noble or whatever.
Yes. When we designed Causa, what we thought about was a few very core mechanics, like central mechanics, and then we went adding more variable stuff and added a lot of stuff, but we really wanted to focus in a few specific mechanics that we thought make the game special, particularly the resource system of the game.
Okay. I suppose recentering a bit. For the uninitiated, what makes Causa stand out from the pack of collectible card games, both physical and digital? What unique facet do you play out to, entice players?
Well, I think what makes Causa special is first of all, in terms of context, it's been one of the main challenges for us as an indie team, really point what is like a unique mechanic or aspect of the game makes it stand out. But I think it's the gameplay. Like, the gameplay is very strategic. It has like a few mechanics that make a spell experience for players who like strategy. I would say that, for example, the lead decisions, the resistance that has this mechanic of sacrificing or dedicating cards into your cause and being able to bring them back to the game. Also, the possibility of performing a lot of actions in different order. There's no very strict phases in the game, so it's very flexible. And I think for strategy fans, this can be a very special experience.
I would definitely agree. Granted, didn't have the opportunity to put a ton of into the game, but just from what I saw from tutorial, like there's a lot going on here. Probably more your average collectible card game. Like, and I suppose to that effect, how difficult is it to keep everything balanced?
Oh, it's very difficult. In fact, well, we're a very, very small team, so it's a really indie project, and it's a very big and ambitious game. So one of the main challenges we've had is to design the game and keep creating the game during the early access. And for this, we work very closely with the community. We have a Discord community where players are very active in sharing feedback. And even though we have some data, we are very focused in keeping the balance of the game. It's a challenge, and we need, especially during the early access, we keep tweaking some cards and some of the leader decisions when we realize something is overpowered.
That's good. Like, I suppose, what is the instance of the card that can be overpowered?
Well, a few weeks ago, we had an event called the Championship Series. And just before we released the run mode and 50 new cards, and among those cards, it was one that was called the Enraged Mob. That was very overpowered at that time. And there was a big reaction of community when cards such as the Enraged Mob are overpowered. To be honest, I remember the details of the card as because I'm a very bad player of Causa. I'm as the producer. For like game in general and the strategy of the project, how to form opportunities to keep the project going and deliver what we plan. And the game design, like in the creative teams, more focus on the specific design of the game.
I suppose that makes sense. And how many people are working on this project currently?
Well, at the moment, we are the team. There's 5 people working at the moment, so it's a very small team. There's one programmer, the game designer, an artist who makes all the art and UI. We've completed the illustration of the game for some of the coming expansion. We also have a mayor in the project and a musician, like a composer and sound designer.
Yeah, that is a very small team for a project that's, like, honestly, that looks pretty big from a vantage point. Yeah. Well, how long has it been in development? And indeed, how long has it been in early access?
Well, we released the game on early access on May this year. And we plan to have a full release during the first quarter of next year, fully, if everything goes well. And we've been working on this project for very long because, as I mentioned, it started when we were in the university as a hobby. We had our a full-time jobs in other fields for some time. We kept working. It has changed in many ways. So I would say that, we start developing the first prototype of the digital version without experience on video development by the beginning of 2016. So it's been over four years working on the video game. But most of the first years were learning about to make a video game. And this is such a complex game with the multiplayer mode, the mechanics, and so many cards, so many stuff to look at. But yes, we're very happy we reached this point. We complete the core of the game, and hopefully we will be able to keep game live for some time.
Okay. And what still has to be added to the game, if anything, or is polish at this point?
No, we are still well for the full release. We are planning to add a few features, particularly the tutorial and polishing like all the experience of the players. Also, a battle pass, so there's more free and premium rewards, and also some new contents. We are adding more cards to the core set of the game. Also, new leaders, um, specifically for the dual colored decks. So there will be also a big challenge in balancing that, but we hope it will be fun to have a more like a
Are decks
versatile
just limited to the curve?
at the moment, yes, yes. There's only one color, like one. You must use the same power of the leader in the deck.
Um, and you hope to have all done by the spring?
Yes, we are working on that. Yes.
Good to know. Good to know. And rewinding back a bit, you just had a big content launch about a month ago, if I'm remembering correctly, a launch of ranked mode. How well has that gone over with your community?
Well, the ranked mode was one of the features that the community was asking for the most, but it's still a feature that is, I think, relevant for more experienced players. Um, I think the ranked mode in Causa has a very familiar design, but we try to add like make it special in terms of the lore of the game. So you go through a path where you rank in the different archetypes of the game. I think the design was well received. We still need to tweak some things in terms of the balance, like how you win the shards and go leveling up across different ranks. And of course, we have the challenge of bringing more gear into the game. Um, there's a lot of work in terms of community building, and that's why, for example, now during the month of December, we have a special event, like a tournament, all against all. So we hope we can keep growing, and in every new season of the game there can be more players joining the game.
Sounds like a plan. And I think you touched upon it a bit there, but one aspect we haven't quite covered yet is indeed the lore, the world, and all that stuff. What is the world of Causa?
Well, the world of Causa, it's like a fantasy world that has some elements of what we could say is a traditional epic fantasy, but it also has some exotic elements that I think make it special, because in this world there is a supernatural force called the dusk, which is devouring everything. So the humanity has to gather, like go into a very specific area which has not been destroyed by this force. So Malcava, this old man that welcomes you during the tutorial, is like a supernatural entity that is trying to help you using the agency of these different leaders. So with this power, with this agency, you can restore the balance in the world. So that is the setting, and other special thing on this setting, in this setting, is that the different leaders represent different powers. What we wanted to represent with this is that power has different forms. It's not just like a military power, but also social power and cultural power, and so that's why there's a glory, wealth, influence, and spirit.
That's a lot more power than is usually represented in these things. Like, and is all of like the world building complete, or is there still more of that to come in future updates?
Well, in what I think it's special about the card game genre is that you work on in a setting and you deliver like a show part of this setting through the different characters and their lore, but there's no like a linear story. Only in the draft campaigns you get like some specific conflicts or something more linear. Um, so yes, we are definitely still working and building this world as we go. And in fact, as we work with the different artists and everyone, even with the community, this keeps being built. Like when players interpret or read what there's in the game, we are also like inspired in creating more.
Makes sense to me, especially since, yeah, as you mentioned, it's a card game, and you do have to keep the cards flowing. Like,
Yes.
well, especially since, for those who might not know yet, this is a free-to-play card game. I mean, tell us about your pricing model. How does that work out?
Yes. Well, this was like an aspect that we had a lot of discussion at some points of the project, which model to go for, or if we could like try being original in this. But then we decided to go for a quite traditional model of monetization, because you can buy the card packs, the leaders, like stuff that has some influence in the gameplay. but it's very important that you can also, if you prefer to play just for free, you can unlock this in a way that is not frustrating for free-to-play players. We also have a lot of cosmetic stuff that you can find in the market. But for an indie team, I must say that it's very challenging in terms of like commercial results to have a free-to-play project. It's very challenging, especially on PC. Because most of the games that have this model on this platform have a very big team and big marketing budget behind. Um, but we are still happy with all the results and the interest of the community, and we are working on this project because we love this is the game we love, and we wanted what we wanted to create.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and yeah, I can imagine it's tough to market the game when you're like just five people. Like, but I think the free to play model is the only one that really works for video game card games. If only because like the only deviation I can think of in recent memory was Architect, and that didn't exactly go well.
Ah, yes. No, definitely no. We at some point we discussed if it could be a good idea to turn the game into like a selling the whole game and then like Artifact, yes. But yes, that didn't work out for them. So for us, it would have been worst, I think.
Yeah.
However, for future projects, like in the long term, we would probably, for example, work in single player card games. I think it's easier for a smaller team, and it's also very appealing, like very interesting to build single player card games. In fact, one of the very special parts of the game is the campaign mode, in which you have to face challenges, and it's very interesting because you must draft a deck, and then you get to use different like cards that are not necessarily in your collection. And also this is a very special part because for new players you can earn packs of cards and start building your collection for free.
And I also know you do a lot of code giveaways on various outlets. Speaking of which, I'll turn it over to Petty Fan for a bit because we have our own giveaway contest running at this very moment.
Yes, in our Discord, which I will put that in the chat. We are running a giveaway for 3 codes.
Yes.
I believe it is 3 packs and 250 crystals.
350 crystals.
Oh, 350. I'll close.
Yes. And we will be running this campaign for the next 2 days.
Yes.
Okay.
All you have to do is go to the giveaway section and hit the react to Da thing on the giveaway that says Casa Voices of the Dusk.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be entered to win. If you win, I will PM you your code. So I guess good luck, everybody, and have fun.
Probably should mention it in the Discord after we're done here.
Yeah.
But anyway, now getting back to the game itself, this is in early access and coming out, but it's not the only platform it's slated for. I've seen that this game is planned for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and mobile. Is that still in the cards?
Yes, we are always evaluating because we are in fact working on all those versions. in our Discord server. Right now we're running the testing of the mobile version, and also the console version is in development. But of course, depending on how everything goes, we must decide which version to complete. So there's a lot, for example, in terms of the consoles, there's a lot of restrictions in terms of multiplayer free-to-play games. So depending on the challenges that we face, we will decide. The mobile version, I think that's a very strong platform for the game. So I hope we can complete the mobile version too. But all that would be after the full release on PC. Like PC, it's our focus at the moment.
Okay. Now, in regards to the console version, how much of a challenge has it been to convert this gameplay to work with a controller?
I think that is one of the most challenging parts of the port. But fortunately, we had the example of other games. So we were using that as a reference for the design of the controllers. But yes, those versions at this time are on standby while we complete the PC version.
That does make sense, since once again you were only 5 people and developing. Well, on the PC side of things, is this game Windows only, or is it also available for the Mac and the Linux?
At the moment, only Windows.
Once again, not a surprise, since every new SKU, as we call them, is more development time and resources. And we talk to a lot of small teams who sometimes they do all of them at once. Sometimes it's one at a time. It certainly makes sense in a collectible card game here. Now, is there a version planned for the Nintendo Switch?
We would love to have the Nintendo Switch version because the controllers are like very nice and it's a great platform for indie games. But we learned that Nintendo Switch has a lot of restrictions in terms of free-to-play games. In fact, there's just a few free-to-play games, so it would require like a redesign or a lot of thoughts in terms of how to sell the content in the platform. Therefore, it's not our priority at the moment, but it would be lovely in the future to bring a version of Causa to Nintendo Switch, if possible.
Hopefully, you will be able to do that. Right. So I think I've run through about all of my questions. So I'll see if my colleagues have anything else for you.
I think I'm good.
I think I've answered most of my. I think I've asked most of my questions.
Okay. Twilight?
I think most of mine have been answered.
All right then. Well then, Maureen, it was lovely having you on our broadcast. It was really enjoyable hearing about Causa and its various workings. Certainly, I've enjoyed what I've seen so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing the project develop to its full completion next year.
Thank you so much. No, it really makes a great difference for us to have your support, and we can wait to hear your opinion also once the game is released.
Yeah, I mean, we can do a review of it when it's released. We have a policy of not reviewing early access games because they're not ready. Like, we can do impressions, but especially a game like yours where there's still content being added. That's the main reason we've done this. well, one of the main reasons. Sometimes they also don't get out of early access, but that's a discussion for another day. But yes. Anyway, the game is Causa Voices of the Dusk. It is currently available for free at on Steam. Is it only on Steam, or can you get it elsewhere, like GOG, EGS, your own client?
Only on Steam, but eventually you will be able to use the same account on all platforms.
Okay. So be sure to play it today. Petty, play us to the next segment.
Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we are talking about the Embracer Group. Now, you might be wondering, who the hell is the Embracer Group? And why should we care? Okay, to answer the first question is, the Embracer Group is the former THQ Nordic, or a THQ Nordic. I may have explained this before, but once more, since, this will be the last time I have to explain it. So up until about last year, there were actually two THQ Nordics. There's the THQ Nordic that everyone thinks of, the publisher, which is actually formally titled THQ GmbH because they are a German company.
And that's a whatchamacallimization that means something in German.
Yes. I think it's also a designation in Austria as well.
Where they also speak German, yes.
Yes.
Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung. It's literally German for LLC.
Right. Anyway, so that THQ Nordic was born out of the ashes of a failed publisher called Joe Wood. And those assets were purchased by the other THQ Nordic, then known as Nordic Games. That's where the Nordic part of THQ Nordic comes from. They're the Swedish holding company, formerly known as THQ Nordic AB, which is probably the Swedish designation for LLC or something like that. And these two entities are actually distinct ones. The AB one, they're the mothership. They're the one that owns THQ Nordic Germany, as well as its sister companies now. Because that's another thing. Like, THQ Nordic has been gaining ground and growing and growing. That's the why should you care? Because we've been talking a lot about industry consolidation recently because of some very big power moves. Well, this is the other end of the equation. This is a company that's not making a lot of big ones, but it's making a lot of them, period. Like, they have bought, they're like the company that's made like the most purchases of other companies this year or something like that. It's like, other people have made, bigger moves, but no one's made more of them, kind of deal. That is not to discount that THQ Nordic and the Embracer Group have made no big moves. Indeed, their biggest one was the purchase of Saber Interactive. And if you don't know who Saber Interactive is, they are the publishers of like the Ghostbuster video game remastered, SnowRunner. They also rose to prominence with their port work. They're the ones who are behind the Switcher port, which is generally considered to be like the best of the impossible ports to Switch. Like, and so on and so forth. And, and getting back to the name, THQ Nordic realized that having two THQ Nordics was fucking confusing. Believe me, I got confused.
Go figure.
Yeah, it's like people got confused and people complained. And, the Swedish THQ Nordic was like, okay, we'll change our name. And what we got was the Embracer Group. Is it a great name? Not really. I've heard dumber.
Look, the main thing is that it doesn't sound like anything else.
That's
what they were going for.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm fine with it because it distinguishes entities. I'm not like, okay, which THQ is this? Are we talking about? Because once again, THQ Nordic and the Embracer Group is getting more and more prominent, and they are growing at a very rapid pace.
I think rapid might be an understatement, my friend.
Yeah, like, no, seriously, if you go and look at all their fucking purchases, there are a lot of them, and they are doing a lot of purchases in a lot of places. For example, another entity that they bought out this year was Deca Games, which is their foray into mobile gaming. Deca Games is apparently a very big German mobile game developer. And, like, among other things, they're the ones who currently own Realm of the Mad God, of all things. Don't ask me. But, and another sizable purchase that they made was Vertigo Games, which is a prominent VR developer. They've even made non-gaming purchases like Sandbox. They're a PR firm. In fact, I've dealt with Sandbox. In fact, I was trying to get Saber Interactive on the program, and that was their PR firm, and the fucking buyout killed that interview. Like, so, yeah, they've been doing a lot of purchasing. Once again, like, just like last month, they bought another 13 companies of various sizes and statures. Yeah. Just some of the and some of the names you might know and have actually been on the program, like Snapshot Games. We did an interview with them a few years ago about their then in development project Phoenix Point. 34 Big Things. We interviewed them when they were developing the Redout Shoot spaceship game. Full title escapes me, and they were working on the Switch port of Redout. To cite two examples, Zen Studios, that's probably the second most well known out of this batch. They're the pinball people, Pinball FX, Zen Pinball. You probably know them from that, but they've also been making waves in diversification, like they've done Apernica. We reviewed Dread Nautical not too long ago, and so on and so forth. Purple Lamp Studios, they're the developers of the SpongeBob SquarePants remake, and apparently that's what they're going to continue to be doing. Like their specific mission is going to be to do more licensed content for the THQ Nordic entity, which is interesting.
Not just remaking SpongeBob SquarePants over and over again.
Well, I mean,
I'm kidding, but
what can they do? Like, earnest question, because I think there's some love for the first SpongeBob movie game, but it's certainly not as much as Battle for Bikini Bottom. And then once you get away from that, then you're getting into outright shite. It's like, honestly, most SpongeBob SquarePants games, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, weren't very good. And I know
they were licensed games, of course.
Yeah, it's like, and I've talked about this before in relation to THQ Nordic's efforts to revive Nickelodeon, I don't want to fucking see a remake of fucking Stimpy's Invention. Like, I don't want to see that fucking horrible Real Monsters game on the store shelves again. Like,
Man, All Real Monsters. That certainly was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
you know, that shitty ass fucking Rocko's Modern Life SNES game. I could go on.
Yeah, I think they already did the good ones, so everything else can just go sleep in a dumpster.
Yeah, it's like, or the good one. Like I said, there's not many of these that you can really do. So, maybe making new ones that don't suck. I'm like, I mean, I guess they can give a hand to see if, they can make the Game Boy Color version of SpongeBob SquarePants good. Like, but why would you want to? Like, I mean, this is kind of the thing of licensed games. Like, it's probably easier to do a new game than it is to, remake.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Battle for Bikini Bottom was just absurdly loved, especially for a licensed title. There was actual demand there, and they were rewarded for it. Anyway, getting back to, like the acquisition field, the biggest one was Flying Wild Hog. If you don't know the name, they're the ones who are behind the Shadow Warrior games, or at least the modern ones.
I was about to ask the old ones or the modern ones.
Yeah, the old ones were done by 3D Realms, or at least the old one, and the expansion. Like, I'd have to look up like individual developers of like the expansion pack or packs, because it was weird situation back in the day. Like the expansion packs to games weren't always developed by the company themselves. That's a thing that's definitely changed from here to now. Like all of like the DLC is internal, or at least done by the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, Flying Wild Hog, they're doing Shadow Warrior 3. And like I said, there's a whole other host of other developers and like even publishers, because a lot of these entities published stuff themselves, like Zen Studios. Another one that did this was Milestone. They're the developers of a lot of Supercross, a lot of bike games, like Monster Energy Supercross or something like that. Very specific niche, but they are part of the Embracer family. And that family works in kind of this way. You've got the Embracer Group, which is the holding company. You've got 6 publishers, or at least 5 in this entity called Amplifier Game Invest, which oversees a whole bunch of its own studios, but that hasn't published anything yet. But besides that, we've got Coffee Stain Holding. You probably know them as developers of Goat Simulator, among others. The aforementioned Deca Games. You probably got the biggest one here in Koch Media, as they are not only the publisher Deep Silver, but they also run film. There's Koch Films, and they also do a lot of distribution of other games. You got Saber Interactive and the THQ Nordic. And you've got a whole bunch of subdivisions of the developers and the various entities from there. And they're probably not going to stop. In fact, they've been raising more and more money for the specific purpose of purchasing mainly companies, but let us not also forget that THQ Nordic specifically likes to purchase old IPs. We've kind of delved into that this year with our reviews of SpongeBob SquarePants, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, Destroy All Humans, and Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning. And we've got we just did a review of their latest sequel to a old-ass European franchise called Aquanox.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a review coming up next year for Chronos Before the Ashes, which is a interesting case on its own, just its release history, because, okay, so Chronos is not a new game. This is actually a port of a VR-only title called Chronos that was put out by Gunfire Games in 2015 prior to its acquisition by THQ Nordic. But it's being re-released on normal platforms now. And it's also being attached to their other franchise, Remnant After the Ashes, which was actually published by Perfect World, though I think THQ Nordic owns this now. Yeah, that's a bit confusing, and I'm not exactly sure how the story hooks work between those two games. But I guess if Petty finds those, he'll tell us. We got the PlayStation 4 version of this, so...
Oh, boy.
I've heard good things about this one. Seemed to translate well from a VR title.
That's good, at least.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about motion sickness.
Yeah, I was about to say, am I going to have to worry about vomiting all over my controller?
Hopefully not. But anyway, that's kind of the overview of who the Embracer Group is and why you should keep tabs, because they are probably the single biggest growing entity out of the midfield right now. They're not the only ones. You got Focus, you got Nacon, there's a 505 Games, there's a few others in that group. But, the Embracer people, they'll either grow into being like the next Bethesda, Ubisoft, what have you, or, they'll get swallowed up by like Microsoft. We'll see what happens on that field, but we'll probably be talking about Embracer in the future, probably their next quarterly report, because once again, they make with like 8, 10, 12 acquisitions a fucking business quarter. Yeah. Right.
And that's on a slow week.
Yeah. Yes. Right, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. If you enjoyed what you heard today, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and also hit the bell to get notified of when we get broadcast, because we are not just a one-a-week show. Indeed, the week ahead. No Friday show this week. In fact, our last Friday show of the year. Yes, I know it sounds weird when I say that, but keep in mind the year is about a month left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, coming up on the Sunday reviews, we will have reviews of Paradise Killer. You might have heard of this game. It's been making some rounds. It's been making some waves over its very, very, very stylish graphics and just the everything. And as for what it is, I'm like, okay, what if somebody took Danganronpa and injected it with Hotline Miami? That's what you get from this. And it's still not as... And that's still kind of underselling the insanity of it all. More on this on Sunday. Like, I'd almost say this would be a contender for Game of the Year if its technical problems weren't so prominent. I've had this game crash too many times. Anyway, we've got Roommates for the PlayStation 4, which is a visual novel, if I'm remembering correctly. We've got Prehistoric Dude for the Nintendo Switch, which is a Rada-like-a platformer. So look forward to that. And Shut In, which is a pitch black comedy point-and-click adventure game. Fairly simple stuff. I would almost call this a good, or at least a decent point-and-click adventure game, until they revived one of my most hated adventure game tropes. More on that on Sunday. And also, coming up in about a half an hour, we will have a new episode of Last News Desk on the Left, So be sure to look for that on YouTube. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.